Now, this morning on Houston Newsmakers, a new mayor elected for the city of Houston.
Even though tonight you have elected me to be your next mayor, it's going to take all of us working together to make this a great city.
The city is poised to take a different direction under the leadership of Sylvester Turner. He's here this morning for this special live Houston Newsmakers.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Good morning and welcome to this Houston Newsmakers, and good morning to State Representative and now Mayor-elect for the city of Houston, Sylvester Turner.
Good morning, Khambrel. It's good to be with you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Has it sunk in yet?
No.
I'm thinking you probably haven't had much sleep.
No, I was up until about 4 this morning, and then but I popped up at my normal time, and we're off and running.
What's one of the first things you want to do?
Well, the first thing, we have already started to assemble a transition team. That's number one, and I'll be working on that later on today and Monday and Tuesday and all of this coming week. There are a lot of bright people in the city, tremendous talent. I certainly want to tap into that. And the city is very diverse, and so it's important for that transition team to reflect the diversity of this city. And then, you have to harness all of that and work in collaboration with others to work to move the city forward. I'm the mayor, but it's going to take a collective effort to make the city work.
I want to remind people about what it took for you to become the mayor, the results from last night, which were close, actually, 51% to 49%, and you won by just over 4,000 votes, and it seemed kind of tight throughout the evening. Were you surprised about the closeness of this race? No,
not really. I mean, look, it's a competitive race. Bill is a great guy. Bill ran a wonderful campaign, and people had choices. So, no, in a competitive race, it's going to be tight. I didn't expect to blow anybody away.
Right.
But, the race is over, the campaign is over, and now it's about building and working on behalf of the city.
Well, Bill King, of course, ends on the losing end. A hard-fought battle. Reminder that there were 13 people running at one point in time. Ryan Korsgaard was at the campaign headquarters of Bill King last night.
Good morning. It was a long night last night at the Royal Sonesta Hotel off of the West Loop as Bill King supporters gathered here. Early on, it did not look good, but then as more numbers came in, he edged up for a time. But finally, it did not go his way last night. He finally came out, he thanked his supporters and said that he did some amazing things along with their help in this race, including they started discussing pensions. Also, he said he was outspending this campaign about 2 to 1. He said the bottom line in this is still a great city.
I just want to remind you that when I entered this race, I had 9% name ID and we were polling at 3%. So to come within a few thousand votes of winning this race is really quite remarkable, and I credit that to the incredible staff that we had and to all of you who supported this campaign. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that from the very bottom of my heart.
For Houston Newsmakers, I'm Ryan Korsgaard.
Well, Bill said he called you last night and offered his help to you and wanted to turn things around in terms of being able to be a big help, and he suggested that all of his followers also support you. There was a point in time when this campaign took a negative turn at some point, at least from his side. How do you get past that and get on to the business of taking care of the city? Well,
almost all campaigns are hard-hitting. I've been in a few. And I think you recognize that campaigns, by definition, are competitive. But they don't necessarily have to be permanently divisive. And so it's important on my part to reach out. Bill is a smart guy, and he's contributed a lot to the city and still has a lot to contribute to the city.
He had some strong opinions about pensions and those kinds of things and how to fix them. I don't know that you necessarily shared them, but at this point, how do you start making that? I know you said last night you were going to make that part of the priority. The budget, the pensions is going to be a part of that.
Yes.
When do you start putting specific proposals into place for people to see?
Well, you start from day one. It's going to require comprehensive finance reform for the city of Houston. I've had the privilege of being on the Appropriations Committee for 21 years, and I've had the privilege of being one of 5 in the Texas House, sitting at the table, writing and balancing 6 state budgets. And on many occasions, those budgets were significantly short. but it's a step-by-step process. And the same thing with the city of Houston. It's no different. And even though we're talking about the city of Houston's budget, just like balancing your own budget, you look at what you have, you look at what your expenses are, you look at where you can shave and cut, where you can engage in cost savings. But we'll deal with unfunded pension obligations. No one, I've never denied the fact that the current system is not sustainable. The question is, how do you best fit it without creating other unintended consequences?
You think people are ready to handle the tough choices that are going to have to be made in that category? Because there are going to have to be some.
Khambrel, people make tough choices in their lives every single day. The same thing applies to government. It's no different. We make tough choices. We have some tough challenges, but it's not just in one area, it's in many. If you look at the debt service, people don't want City Hall to be mortgaged. They don't want more debt. When you look at, for example, unfunded pension obligations, we understand we have to control that and get that under control, and we will. But at the same time, I think people in the city expect me to take a look at every single dollar that they have to pay and to make sure that every single dollar is spent prudently. And so you just can't look at one area, you have to look at every area. What I will say to Houstonians, everything is on the table. Everything is on the table, everything will be evaluated, and we will balance the city's budgets, and we will operate within our means, and that does not mean increasing your property taxes.
Well, and that was a big concern. A lot of people were concerned about that. A lot of the advertisements on the other side indicated you were planning on raising taxes.
But again, you know, that's more political rhetoric and political spin. In 22 months of campaigning, I've never advocated increasing anyone's property taxes. And I don't advocate increasing people's property taxes now. I do expect us to be fiscally and prudent. I do expect us to take a look at the revenue cap. I do expect us to take a look at the debt that we've already created in the city. And I do expect us to take a look at the unfunded pension obligations. But you just can't fix one piece without fixing it all. And what I'm not interested in is engaging in patchwork that kind of solves the problem today, but the problem continues to linger down the road.
So no more kicking the can.
Well, we're not going to do that. You know, for me, this is the last political office that I'm seeking. I'm not trying to go to Congress. I'm not trying to go to D.C. I ran because this is a great city, and I want to make sure that the opportunities continue to exist for future generations. I'm not going to carry forth debt for other generations. We'll make tough calls, but that's why I believe many Houstonians voted for me. And now it's my job to make sure that I invite people to the table, that I listen, that I'm respectful of other people's opinions. And regardless of the campaign and who voted for whom, as far as I'm concerned, when I went to bed last night, that was history.
Well, I'm glad you're here this morning. We're going to have more with you, Mayor-elect Turner.
Thank you.
It's a kind of...
Yeah, say it again. You know.
As we go to break, though, I want to remind you that click2houston.com, you can get all of the election results from last night. We do want to leave you with a few other results from last night right now. And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. I'm joined by Houston Mayor-elect Sylvester Turner, who won the runoff election yesterday, 108-389 to 104-307, or percentage points 51 to 49%. Close election. You said you thought it might be close. One of the people who won also was the Deputy Controller, Chris Brown, who's going to be the Controller now.
Yes.
How is that office, how important is that office going to be in working with you to go ahead and take care of the budget issues that the city's facing?
I think it's going to be very important. The Controller is pretty much like the check and balances to make sure that we are operating within our means. Historically, we've done a lot of performance audits on many of the departments. I look forward to working with Chris. I'm sure Chris will do his job, and he'll do it very, very well. And quite frankly, it takes all of us doing our respective jobs, and they all for the better interest of the city of Houston.
And there have been some changes on the council now, too, including a couple who got bounced out and then some who didn't run. How confident are you that you're going to be able to bring together this council to work with you to accomplish the things that you want?
Look, I feel very confident about that. You know, bear in mind, look, I'm the only Democrat that's been sitting on the House Appropriations Committee in the legislature since 2003, appointed by Republican speakers to sit on that committee. I've never lost my seat at the table. you know, I don't make things personal. Things are not personal. And I think it's important to reach out. You know, I have no problems going and sitting in front of a councilman's office or council member's office, in their respective office,
sure,
asking for their support. That's, you know, that's not a problem of mine. You know, so I look forward to working with them and partnering with them as it relates to the things that are important to them and their districts.
This is supposedly a nonpartisan race, but it certainly seemed partisan toward the end. I know the Republican Party was sending out flyers letting people know that the president had suggested you would be the good mayor, and that was designed to get people to come out against you. This changing the way elections of Houston mayors may be down the road when both parties get involved the way they have?
I don't think so. Look, campaigns are competitive. And I think you look to where your strengths are, and I think sometimes there's a tendency for them to be more partisan. But again, once the results were made and the race was over, there's no longer a Republican or Democratic pothole or budget or safety. It's just what's in the best interest of the city of Houston. I don't intend to govern in a partisan fashion, and I certainly will extend the invitation to people from all persuasions and all philosophies to be at the table.
Is it going to be a challenge, or how much of a challenge will it be to get those folks who voted against you, and there were 49%, to come along and believe you when you say that you're going to govern for all of them? What do you have to do to make sure that they feel complete and a part of that process?
Well, just be true to myself. Let my yes be a yes and my no be a no. Continue to function like I've always functioned. Be pragmatic. Take care of the fundamentals. And ask one question that I think is critical. What's in the best interest of the city of Houston? Not what's in the best interest of Republicans, or what's in the best interest of Democrats, or Hispanics, African American, or Asians, or the rich, or the poor. What's in the best interest for the city of Houston? If it's good for the city of Houston, it'll be good for me.
The divisiveness of this last year was about the Equal Rights Ordinance.
True.
Is that something that might rear its head again? Because of the divisiveness, if it's good for the city, from your perspective, it wasn't so good for the other side, and which voted very overwhelmingly against.
Well, you know, in many ways, leadership sets the tone. My style of leadership is to invite you to the table. You don't necessarily have to agree with me. I don't expect you always to agree with me, but I'll always listen to you. I'll be respectful of your views. I'll never question your motives. But again, when it comes to making the tough decisions, I'll make those tough decisions. When it comes to making sure that we have a Houston whose future will be brighter than its past, we will. When it comes to making sure that we represent those who are the very poor, those who are affected by income inequality on the lower end, I'm going to do that. When it comes to representing those communities in many ways that have been overlooked or ignored, I intend to represent them. But whether you live in Clear Lake or Kingwood or Fort Bend or any parts within the city of Houston, I intend to work very hard to be your mayor.
Well, I look forward to hearing what happens going forward and whether or not you raise that issue, because you didn't really answer that question about whether you would or not. So, but I do want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you, Khambrel.
You're going to be getting a lot of perks as mayor, I'm sure. But on behalf of us here at Channel 2, I want to take this opportunity to invite you to join us at the football game tonight, the Texans and the Patriots. Here's a nice parking pass, so you don't have to worry about getting in.
Well, I appreciate that.
And to invite you to be a part of the pregame show, being a part of the process, kicking off the game tonight as the new mayor of Houston.
Well, so, is it possible? Can I play?
I don't know. You'd have to answer that question. I'm thinking, looking at your size, with all due respect, Mayor-elect,
yes.
No.
Size never matter. My heart is big.
Yeah.
You know.
Your heart is big. Let's see if that gets you a win. Mayor-elect, thank you for coming in. We appreciate
Thank you, man.
it. Look forward to seeing you. Hopefully you can join our team at 5 o'clock today, be a part of our pregame show.
Go Texans, and go Cougs.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Congratulations once again.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you coming in. Well, we look forward to you being a regular visitor on this program, by the way. Man, let's make it semi-regular. Coming up, some of the best political minds in Houston are standing by to dissect what happened yesterday in the mayor's race and other races, what it means for the city's future. Stay with us.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers, where I'm joined now by Dr. Mark Jones, political science fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute, Gary Pollan, the former chair of the Harris County Republican Party, and Dwight Borkins, Houston City Council member, District D, who was just bored as heck not having to run against anybody last night. Any surprises about the election last night, Doc?
Well, I think the biggest surprise was that it was so close that Bill King won the election day vote but lost the early vote, and that Sylvester Turner lost the election day vote but won the early vote. In the end, though, it was a nail-biter and the most competitive mayoral election we've had in over 50 years.
And Gary, you pay a lot of attention to numbers. What do you think?
I thought the numbers were fascinating, and I think that the key for the Turner victory was Fort Bend County. There was virtually no erosion from round 1 votes for Sylvester and Fort Bend in round 2. Everywhere else you look, Harris County, City of Houston votes, there was erosion. Less people voted, less people turned out. So that was the key. I mean, they had an amazing turnout machine in Fort Bend County, and he won Fort Bend County with, I think, over 90% of the vote.
93.
Were you surprised at anything, Dwight?
Not really, man. Sylvester ran a very, very smart campaign, inclusiveness of everybody. He just ran a straight campaign. But you know what I found interesting, and some of my consultants and I talked about this, if you compare Sylvester's credentials and knowledge of the legislative process to anybody who was in the race, it was hands down. And so we were just excited that the voters spoke for someone with experience, someone who can work with the council members, because we will pick up 2 new council members, 2 or 3, I think, and can bring us all together, Democrats and Republicans.
Speaking of that, what's going to be the challenge of trying to get this council together to move forward? Gary,
I will say that Sylvester Turner has not inherited a warm bed. I describe the situation as that Niece Parker's been the captain of the Titanic, and we see the icebergs coming, and she's leaving, and Sylvester gets to take her place. So, and I think he recognizes this. We visited with him before he visited with you, Khambrel. It's going to be a big challenge. And he does have a diverse council, but I think the council is ready to work with him. And I think the new comptroller, who I'm sure you'll have on the show at some point, we had a chance to visit with him this morning. He's going to be outspoken on the financial challenges this city faced, which would be the first time in 6 years we've had someone
But Gary,
like that.
no, let me clear the air a little bit on something. I think what you will find, maybe 9 to 10 Democrats, 6 to 7 Republicans, and then a deputy controller who is controller-elect, is qualified, that know the process, is presented before council for many years, will hit the ground running. Sylvester Turner will bring everybody together immediately, and that's how you operate.
And I see that.
Well, I think he will, but I think we're in a situation where Mayor-elect Turner is facing some very significant challenges. The pension situation is a train wreck that gets worse and worse every day, and we don't really have time to wait 2 to 3 more years. At the same time, sales tax revenues are falling, and property tax revenues are flat, which means that we're going to probably have to be making some cuts, and how do we make those cuts, and getting those cuts through council might be a little more difficult.
What's the challenge to try to convince all those people, the 49% who voted against Sylvester Turner, to come on board as a constituency to go ahead and be...
I think the things that Sylvester said to you, Khambrel, were open and welcome, that he wants everyone to participate and be involved in the process. So I think that was positive. I think he and Bill King had a good conversation, but Mark Jones has nailed it on the head. We have there's a slow-motion train wreck happening to this city on pensions, and unfortunately for Sylvester, or not, I mean, he had significant union support for election. It was important in him winning. He is going to have a Nixon to China moment at some point to get control of these runaway pensions.
No, hang on. Let me clear the air on something. And see, that was part of the scare tactic they used in the campaign. This revenue cap is the issue. I've been at council for 2 years, Khambrel, and I've had an opportunity to look at the city's finance. This revenue cap, when you don't have it on the federal and state level, we provide city services, and we cap in revenue. That's where the problem is in terms of revenue.
The good news about all of us here is that we're going to have more time to talk about this. We're going to take a break right now. Okay. I want to show you some other races from last night. Plus, we are going online, live online, click2houston.com for another half hour to talk about the issues we're talking about this morning. But first, some more results from HISD's runoff races. Welcome back. We were holding that thought. You were talking about the revenue cap issues, Professor?
Well, that's certainly an option, but it's a partial one, and it can only be done in 2017, and it wouldn't really have an effect until 2018, and we still have that $6 billion pension debt that grows every year. So really, I think for Turner, we do need a Nixon to China approach. This is Richard Nixon was a strong conservative that cut a deal and established diplomatic relations with China. Sylvester Turner is going to have to get the unions to come to the table and make some sacrifices. Firefighters, police officers, and municipal employees, particularly firefighters, can't continue with the same benefits they have. It's not sustainable.
No, you were sitting on some stats that you were looking at.
Well, I was looking at numbers. You know, the Fort Bend County vote that we talked about was so important for Sylvester. 67% of those voters voted against Hero. So the big question that comes out of this election was, what happened to tying Sylvester Turner to the pro-Hero forces? Because the African-American vote, likewise, 67% against. Overall, 61% against. Politically, the polling indicated if you tied Sylvester to Hero, there was going to be erosion in his base. Significant, and he didn't even need significant erosion. Light erosion means King wins. But nobody wanted to touch the issue
well, because
of runoff.
Sylvester said it best. Hang on.
30
Gary
seconds.
said it best. Sylvester said the voters spoke. And it was over. So he went into the runoff, and that was not an issue. And he's trying to bridge people together. I didn't vote for Hero in the beginning, as you know.
I know.
I voted for my district, and the voters proved that. But Sylvester's moving forward, and that's why he's an effective legislator.
That's a different
You got to give him credit.
No, I do.
You got to give him
that was smart. However, it could have been made an issue. Senator Paul Betancourt, I know, urged that on the King campaign. Senator Paul Betancourt talked about it in messages to conservatives, but you don't win elections in the city of Houston with just conservatives, because as Mark Jones told us, it's about 35% of the vote.
That's going to have to be the last comment right there. Time will be against us. By the way, we're going to click2houston.com. We're going to continue this conversation. And next week here, Mayor Annise Parker, her final appearance on Newsmakers. We're going to talk about her thoughts on her 6 years of leadership and her successes, failures, and what's in her future. Hope you'll tune in. Thank you to Mayor-elect Turner for being here, Dr. Mark Jones, Gary Pollan, Councilmember Dwight Borkins for joining me, and to all of you for tuning in. Remember, go to click2houston.com for our live webcast for the next half hour. Have a great day. Stay dry if you can. Wear your coats. I'll see you back here again next week.